You're looking good, and it feels good to be with you today. I'm Kendall Brian Hunter, and this is News with the Eyes of Faith, where I talk about news from the perspective of Christ and the doctrine of Christ. Well, we're getting a lot of circular news, so I'll just skip over that. What I mean by that is just repetitive stuff. Pope speaks out against war. Someone sues the church over tithing refunding. Let's see. So here's the NewsBlips. Of course, the top of the news is the passing of Representative Mia Love, who was beloved in Utah. She passed on, and we express our condolences. She was a loss. Cancer. That was a serious death. Dr. Julie A. Hanbks announced that she is divorced. This is my take on it. We certainly have our disagreements with her. Flat out, I think she led a lot of people out of the church, but I wish her well. I will not make this toxic. I will not gloat. I will not talk about the irony of a marriage counselor getting divorced. We have plenty of skeletons in our own closets, so I'm not going to throw stones on this one. I wish her well, sincerely wish her well. FBI, this morning, I was reading about the death of Brigham Young in Wolf Woodruff's journal, and one of the issues they had is selling out Brigham Young's estate because he commingled his personal funds with the church. And they announced this in general conference, so it's no secret. Apparently, the estate of Brigham Young owed the church is like slightly under $1 million. So let's keep things civil and honest. FBI forms a Tesla Terrorism Taskforce. Finally, now I own stock in Tesla, so I do have an interest in that. But just keep that in mind. Needing to form a task force against this domestic terrorism. Another news item is Trump. That was not a Freudian slip. I didn't Trump. Trump forms a crypto stablecoin for the United States. Now, this is interesting. This is actually something that could replace the U.S. dollar. Now, first of all, in cryptocurrency, a stablecoin is a coin that's at the same rate as the U.S. dollar. For example, PayPal has a stablecoin, and what this is that the government owns cryptocurrency through FBI seizures, etc. And so they already have the mechanism in there. But could this replace the dollar, considering that we're moving to an electronic cash? When's the last time you really held money or gotten a paycheck? It's just everything's electronic now. This could replace the dollar and be a stable thing. Of course, you have the problem is, can quantum computing break a blockchain? If quantum computing can do that, then we're stuck. But also, too, in Revelation, the book of Revelation 13, it talks about how people focus on the mark of the beast 666, but the interesting thing is to talk the debanking mentioned in there, that you can't buy or sell without the mark of the beast. And if everything's electronic, when we move to a blockchain dollar, things can get out of hand. So don't discredit this stuff because it's written a long time ago. It's very vital stuff. Of course, I believe the book of Revelation, and I 100% distance myself from the crackpot interpretations of the book. Churches, Fairview Temple, Texas, they resubmitted plans. Hopefully we'll get the temple there. As always, Brigham Young said the bells of hell ring whenever we build temples. A couple of days ago, Hillary Clinton tweeted something or other about this or that. At this point, what difference does it make? Interesting, just this morning, Elon Musk merges XAI and X, or Twitter. That's interesting. Of course, it's consolidating his companies, just fewer things to manage, economies of scale. But it's interesting, back, I think it was in 2016, Microsoft created this chatbot called Tay, T-A-Y, on Twitter, and they had to shut it down after 16 hours because apparently this chatbot was reading Twitter, the post on Twitter, and apparently turned into a Holocaust denier. You can double check that on Wikipedia. So that's what I have for the news blips. Like I said, it's a bit of a slow news month. Of course, we're leading up to General Conference. I'm going to talk about something, so I hope I want to talk in measured tones. And you probably saw this is in the church news. You saw it on YouTube. The church and the NAACP did a joint video. Now, the first thing is the video is about 40 minutes too long. If you do a 3 to 5 minute one and do a 40-minute one, that's a little bit better, because that's very time consuming. And it's about a bunch of black members of NAACP in the church having an experience in Africa. So the question I'm raising is this our message? Now think about this. Someone says, okay, you belong to a structurally racist church. Now, I was born in 1970, and yes, I am old enough to remember the ban on the priesthood, and I remember being in the foyer when it was announced and the people talking about that. So I do not deny that, and with the church, I disavow anything that's a racist understanding of that. Let me change my glasses. This isn't quite working right. Much better. Hey, photogenic. These are sort of the Tony Stark, Edith glasses. I don't like that band there. But so I was actually so I'm old enough to remember the ban on the priesthood and people talking about it. My mission president, who served in Brazil, talked about they actually had this special set of lessons that they'd give to people who are black who are investigating the church in Brazil. And I've seen something on the internet that purports to be these lessons. I just haven't double checked it. So I know it's out there, and that is, and you probably could find it around. So the NAACP is partnering with the church. And so if someone says the church is racist, and you just say, yes, this stuff went on in the past, I don't deny it and I disavow it. I do not deny it, but I do disavow it. And you say, okay, but if we're still racist, why is the NAACP partnering with a racist organization? You're saying that the NAACP cannot organize a racist organization. What do you know that the NAACP doesn't know? The other thing, too, is people having an ancestral connection, spirit of Elijah, temple work. You understand with the black diaspora, slavery, this isn't for the most part, it wasn't voluntary. This involves slavery, enslaving people, human trafficking. And it's interesting, as back in 1977, Brigham Young University gave Alex Haley, the author of the book Roots, an honorary doctorate for his work in genealogy. And he's also, Alex Haley was the principal speaker at the World Conference on Records in Salt Lake City in 1980, and he praised the church's record-keeping efforts. For those of us who are a little bit younger, there's a mini-series called Roots. It had LeVar Burton from Star Trek and Reading Rainbow was in there in a very early role, and it had a profound effect upon people. And, really highlighted some stuff, and it was actually perfect timing. And as always, the church embraced it. And remember, this is 77, a year before the ban was lifted, and we were reaching out, and we've always reached out to black people, even while the ban was in place. Read the life of Elder Elvesio Martins, also from Brazil, which I talked about. So the church is highlighting people getting back to their ancestry. And that's consistent with our mission, the spirit of Elijah. If I can sit here and read Beowulf, Tolkien did a good translation of it, and you can certainly watch this video about that. People going to Africa and having a cultural heritage experience. But remember, our message is to say nothing but repentance. So our message is not a quasi-ecumenical outreach. It's not about mindfulness or resilience. General Conference is not about sweet roll recipes. And this is the issue about partnering. Now, we'll certainly talk to everyone. And BYU is a great place. All the BYUs, I should say, the campuses around the world are good places for people to come together and have these conversations. And I completely support that as an alumnus of BYU. Partnerships. Section 78:14 says the church may stand independent above all other creatures beneath the celestial world. Now, you have this antinomy here, is that Christ said, and this is reaffirmed in the Doctrine and Covenants, make ye friends of the mammon of unrighteousness. So you be shrewd and you have a really good Rolodex, good networking thing. But ultimately, the church needs to stand independent of these other organizations. And it's the problem of these strategic partnerships, or a psychological and emotional need to be validated by other people. Being other-directed, need other people to tell you, okay, I give you affirmation. That's a problem. That's other-directed. That's reactive. You're being acted upon by other people's opinions. Need to be validated, and there's a problem of what happens is doctrinal drift. You're so busy smelling the roses in other gardens that your garden goes to pot. Think of the allegory of the olive trees, Jacob 5. So I'm fine with this. But I thought it might have been better done through BYU. Ensign, oh, let's do something to Ensign College. Let's boost up Ensign College, or the church philanthropies, LDS philanthropies. I think that would have been a better thing because, what are you doing with the name of the church? What are you doing with the church? If this could work through BYU, the study abroad, I would have felt a little bit better about that because, you have to take care of the church's name. You have to be very careful about that. It comes from above and sacred. Beware how you take my name upon your lips, is what Christ said. It's a slow news day. We're at 10 minutes, and this is sort of the ideal I wanted. I never really wanted this to drag on a half an hour, so we're at a slow news day. So let me conclude with 3 events. Now, the title screen shows a picture I took yesterday. As I was I get up early, and as I was walking to work, I saw this on the sidewalk. So when I came back from work, I got the picture, and this is this written on the sidewalk here in Provo, Utah. Kill the pigs. 1960s rhetoric advocating bloodshed, the spirit of murder, bloodlust. Kill police officers is what it's saying. For those of you, pigs is a derogatory term. Pigs is the N-word for police officers. Pigs is the N-word for police officers. And someone just put that on their sidewalk. I saw that. Okay. Advocating murdering police officer. Isn't that called insurrection? Is that the appropriate term for that? Secondly, I had a friend who I think is a really good asset and a really good friend. He's one of these thought leaders, and he used to home teach me for a bit, and I'm grateful for his friendship. But he posted this on. He did this article. And it was basically calling Trump a fascist. Now, remember we talked about the need to label, thaumaturgy of words from Sigmund Freud. You announce certain things. It's interesting because the quotes, it's like, yeah, he's a fascist. He's 100% a fascist. It's like you're labeling him. You're not proving it, but you're labeling him. And so that's a different thought process. And I've talked about this in other of these podcasts about the difference between the left and the right thought process. So I've reported this, and I had to get my voice out without being confrontational or hurting someone. And I quoted George Orwell, quote, "The word fascism now has no meaning except insofar as it signifies something not desirable." I think that's interesting. In continental Portuguese in Portugal, if you were luxuriating, if you were spending money on good clothes, they'd call you a fascista. Oh, you have a new suit, you're really fascista. It's a derogatory term for rich people. But that goes to support George Orwell's point, is that it's just sort of a term of derision. It's like calling someone a dweeb. Okay, so what does that exactly refer to? You're a dweeb, you're a dork. I mean, it's just an insult. It's nothing really behind it. Something not desirable. And that's the second point. The third point is this Tesla vandalism. Like I said, I own stock in Tesla. I don't drive one, but they're building robots. And people getting comfortable with vandalism, violating property rights. See, you kill the pigs, then you can vandalize Teslas without any repercussions. You see what's going on here? And you just label people. So what do you think of that? That's what we're getting from the left. Kill the pigs. Trump's a fascist. The type of rhetoric that led to the assassination attempt. I mean, oh yeah, kill the pigs, but you oppose assassination. Come on. And then Tesla vandalism, violating life and property rights. Now, on the other hand, Trump and Doge are eliminating government fraud and waste. That was called a spoonerism. Faced and rod is spoonerism. That's actually a word, spoonerism, what I just did. Fraud and waste. So he's doing that, and you're opposed to that. Trump's also asserting federalism, localism, and subsidiarity. Subsidiarity, that's more of a Catholic principle, but they're all talking about the same thing. Federalism, localism, subsidiarity. That has to do with abortion. So it's not the federal government making decisions, it's the states. It's closer to the people. Department of Education, you're putting education closer to the people. You're eliminating from the federal and having it on the state levels taking care of the stuff. And you're opposed to that. Local control, that's why you use credit unions. because credit unions are closer to the people. Just want you to think about that those two positions, murder and destruction, or eliminating fraud and waste and asserting power to the people. Which one's that's essentially what Trump's doing is with federalism and localism, subsidiarity. That's power to the people. There's a double standard here. You're keying a Tesla and saying Trump's a fascist while you're keying a Tesla. Okay, there's a certain type of mind there that's operating. That's just absolutely lunatic. And like I said, what does the word fascist mean? And to my response, someone posted a response, and it was just a bunch of kind of generic statements about it, but it wasn't anything that passed muster. Now, I minored in political science at Brigham Young University, so I've been trained at the university level in political science. Admittedly, it's a minor for a bachelor's degree. I'm not the genius level PhD, but I have been trained. You think about what the word fascist means. It refers to a bundle of, kind of like the bundle of sticks. You've seen what a fasces is. It's a bunch of these rods put together, and it has an axe blade on it. It's a Roman symbol. But it's about bundling things under a central power. It's the principle of the economy as a scale. But at the same time, you have this resisting torque force, the law of diminishing returns. The more you centralize stuff, the less effective it becomes. And that's what Trump's doing. Is he's actually an anti-fascist. He's disbundling things. Okay, abortion is settled by the states. Education, it's handled on the state level. He's debundling it from the federal one. So what he's doing is the exact opposite of the term fascist, since he's debundling it from the centralized government. And that's confusocracy. That's why I use that term. This is confusocracy. As they're vandalizing and killing police officers by their own admission, you saw that. They're confusing you by accusing Trump of doing that, even though he's one of the victims of the assassination attempt. So just be wary of the confusocracy. Every time that term is being used, it's just part of this confusing tactic. So we're at 17 minutes, probably one of my shorter ones, and that is news with the eyes of faith.